2019, we were
Yeah.
on set together. And Eva actually was my first episode of the podcast, which at the time was called Life with
Oh my
Becca.
God. That's right.
And we were in post on something, and I came and we just like recorded. I don't know.
It wasn't flaming hot, but it was.
This is pre-pandemic. A
Yeah.
lot of life has
Well,
happened.
barely pre-pandemic.
Barely. It was
Yeah.
the summer of 2019. And so a lot has changed for both of us since then. I got married. I had a baby.
Yeah.
You also had
Yeah.
a baby.
I think I was pregnant or just had a baby. Yeah.
Just had a baby.
Mhm.
And obviously you have been staying busy, I guess. Do you take breaks? Like, what's that look like for you?
No, I mean, I love work and pleasure. I always mix it. And so I was just telling Philippe right now, I'm shooting, Searching for France. So I get to travel all over France and eat and drink. And the schedule's crazy, but all I'm doing is eating and drinking. They're like, you have to be on this rooftop filming, drinking champagne, eating caviar. I'm like, okay. But I like reverse engineer stuff. I reverse engineer projects. This is why I became a producer director, was because I was like, I want to shoot in Spain. I want to do a show in Spain. I want to live in Spain. I want to be in France. So I go, what could I do? And then I reverse engineer places I want to be. And really, I mean, I really have done that, and it's always like, it's like next is Bahamas. I don't know what they're doing in the Bahamas, but not happening.
Searching for the Bahamas.
Searching for the Bahamas.
I feel the same. Every time I travel somewhere for fun, I'm always the person who's like, where's the film commission here? Are they filming here? Should they? How do I talk to someone? How do I get this?
Yeah, we're texting
Like,
if
I
it's
cannot
here.
turn it off. And
I
I do think
know.
it's just like, either your brain is wired in such a way or it's not. And I think now having done the show for over 6 years, it's just crazy tough. And
Yeah.
how many producers I've had the privilege of meeting on air, on mic, there is a sort of DNA blueprint of the kind of
Well,
crazy
we're from.
person like us who just really thrive in that chaos
Yeah.
and finds that actually fun.
Yeah.
My husband is always like, when do we rest? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'm resting right now, sitting here. Is that work?
Yeah.
I'll be somewhere in 30 minutes. No.
Yeah.
Speaking of not resting, let's talk about Hyphenate,
Yeah.
which is something you've launched since I've last seen you. Hyphenate Media Group, which is a company that you launched with Visionaries. And it's it's a mission and it's an incubator, which is really interesting. It's very different from many independent companies that are out there. So I'm curious, when you guys were thinking of this company, what were the specific gaps in the market that you guys went?
Well, there's a white space
Well, yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
And because Chris and I are brown, we were like, yeah, there's room for us. But no, Chris Abrego and I have known each other over 20 years. My first producing credit was with Chris. Chris Abrego is the best producer you'll ever meet. Mexican Americans like me. We're both Chicano. We both speak the same language. And he really made a name for himself in unscripted, and he sold his company very, very young. And I remember they told him, you're gonna make so much money on this, your kids won't ever have to work. And he goes, I want my kids to work. And so once he sold his company, he was like, I don't know the executive side. And so he went to Endemol and became an executive to learn, M&A, to learn how to operate, to learn to be on the other side, to be a buyer. And so now after that, and it's funny because as Gabo was saying, producers are never in a suit and tie. We're like, ponytail, sweats, putting out fires everywhere. And the first time I saw Chris in a suit, I was laughing so hard because I was like, why are you wearing that? Because he's such a producer. He's like a real producer. He goes, I know. I realized I didn't own a suit.
It almost looks like a costume, right?
Yeah. It's so weird. I'm like, take off the jacket at least. Oh my God. It's like embarrassing me. But then so he spent 10 years as an exec, and then him and I said the same thing basically at tea time. He's like, we both wanted more control about what we were creating. And I had been in the business and was directing for the last 15 years and producing, and he was the exec. And so when we went on our road show to raise money, we only went 3 places, but like the star in the room was Chris Abrego. People were like, do you have an operator who knows how to run a budget and do acquisitions and all that shit that I didn't know. And so then we launched Hyphenate Media, where we have 2 parts of it. We have our own slate and producing and directing and creating, but we also have our acquisition side. We just search for companies who need an infusion of know-how, cash, help acquiring IP and really, boosting them turbo boosting them into empires, right? And making 20 more Eva Longorias because we have the talent. They just need the infrastructure. So that infrastructure doesn't exist for everybody. And because Chris and I had so much success individually, we're like, what if we did this for other producers, writers, people, you know?
And you're doing that with people like Gloria Calderon, who's a friend I know and has her company Glow Nation.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because, the model is very disruptive. We love that word.
Yeah.
But also, I think that I'm curious how you measure success, like
Mhm.
with the company that you've launched, what metrics do you use from a business standpoint to then show that this model can be repeated and can work and that others, perhaps with similar influence
Yeah.
and experiences in other lanes can come together so that beyond launching to 20 more Evas, we can have 20 more hyphenates as
Yeah,
well. Which
exactly.
is just as
Yeah, I
important.
mean, we're technically a baby studio because our business model is similar in that sense, but where we are different is we are investing in a talent pool that nobody's looking at, and which is the Latino talent and also women. Yeah, and it's like I said, it's a huge white space because Gloria Calderon has run many shows. She's a huge showrunner, and so many executives past a certain point didn't know her name. Like she had a deal at Amazon, and so many people were like, "Oh, is she with us?" And I'm like, and so I was like, "Yeah, Gloria Calderon's amazing, and she can write 10 shows a year." But when you're, for writers, when you're in an overhead, you write like one every 3 years,
Yeah.
and you staff on others, and it's just, we have a business model. We do ambition checks. So we meet with a lot of people who go, I want to do this, I want to do this. We've met with some amazing writers who go, I like one show every 3 years. And we're like, great, you're not for us. We want somebody who wants to really push the gas.
Well, building a business is different than running
Yeah.
a show.
And usually creatives are not good at building the business. They're really good writers. They're really good directors. I'm lucky because I direct and produce, but as I direct, I'm always like, we got to do a production pass on this. Like, and I'm always having that in the back of my mind. And so it's hard for me to dream big sometimes when I'm
Because
directing.
the real.
Because I'm like, we're never going to get an elephant in this room,
Yeah.
But look, Reed's great in the script, and as a
Yeah.
director, I'd love an elephant in this room. And my other producers are like, we cannot get an elephant here. So for me, I have both brains. But people think I'm an actor that turned producer director. When I moved to Hollywood, I wanted to be a director producer, and I was a PA. I was an AD. I was a first AD. I mean, I ran the set. And I loved it. And I worked for a live event company, which is also super. Talk about putting out fires. Talent is horrible, by the way.
I wasn't gonna say it.
Musical talent is like, gee, you guys are another level. And so running around and producing live events, and then I produced a comedy show for the Improv called oh my God, Hot Tamales with Kiki Melendez, and I was like 23, and it was just we had to watch all these VHS tapes of talent and try to book the night, and then split the door with I mean, it was such a baby producing job, but it really taught me so much. And then I got Young and the Restless, and then my life kind of was like, oh, I guess I should be, and I could do that. But when I was on Desperate Housewives, I felt like I wasn't reaching my full potential on set, as I'm on set of the biggest show in the world, and I used Desperate Housewives as my film school. That we had a weekly budget of like a movie. And so
Yeah.
you're just like, I'm gonna learn. And this was back in the day when we would do 24 episodes a year, none of this 6 to 8 bullshit. I was tired. I was so tired. And so that's 24 directors that you get to learn from, ask questions. And every time a new director would come in, I would just like, why are you doing that? What is that? What is that? Why is that? What is that? Blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh my God, can somebody get Eva back to holding? Because I was so curious. And then, and it was Mark Cherry who gave me my first directing job, who created Desperate Housewives. And I knew I was good at it. I was like, oh, I'm really good at this.
Why? What
Um,
was the thing that made you feel solidified in that?
I think women are better directors and producers because we are natural multitaskers. We're natural problem solvers. We can hear what's happening over here, but doing this over here. And it just takes a lot of juggling to do that.
I know, yay women.
Yeah.
But no, in the product, and I was given the feedback too, like in a backhanded compliment way. Like I directed my first thing, and the DP goes, "Wow, you know what you're doing," and I go, "Yeah, yeah, I do." And then another DP would be like, "Wow, you're really good at this. You should continue to do this."
And you're like, thank you so much.
And I'm like, I am, I will.
I'll
Thank
take
you
that
so
as
much.
well.
Thank you. But you know, it's great because I've had amazing mentors also to be like, you're really good at this. What I would change or give you advice on is this or that. And I have absorbed all of that and really taken it with me. But producing is like my love. And when I did Flaming Hot, when I directed Flaming Hot, I had an amazing producer, Devon Franklin, who and we had a lot of fires to put out on that film. Not with us, with like because it was a biopic and it was we had to navigate PepsiCo and Frito-Lay and what was real and what didn't happen and what really happened. And I was like, I'm not telling the history of Frito-Lay. I'm telling the story of this man. And what he says is true. And that's this film. And that's why we had all of these amazing, devices in the movie to compensate for like, this is a very specific point of view. But along the way, Devon, I'm like, Devon, and he's like, got it, on it, good, and that's what you want you want a producer to say, yes, but, yes, but I've had so many, and especially directing a lot of TV, like when I started directing, I've directed so many episodes of television, half hour, 1 hour, dramedy, comedy, small pilots, big pilots, and it's such good ground to work with different producers and work with studios. But in the TV world, the network and studio have the final say, and so and the showrunner. And so there's always like, I'm going to do this. Is that cool? Yeah, that's cool. Great. Okay. And then we're going to do this. Can we do that? And it's like, yes, you can do that. And then when I did Flaming Hot, somebody goes, "What do you want to do here?" And I go, "I don't know. We should ask somebody." And then I was like, "Oh, me? I decide."
I
And
think what you said is so
it,
interesting.
it's such a different
I
format.
have a dream that I'm going to say out loud. I say this all the time. And that dream is that as people are coming up in whatever industry or field they're in, they take interest in shifting lanes. Even if your desire is not to end up as a producer or as an executive, being the person that understands what it took for all of this to get here, even in this villa,
Yeah.
the people that put it together,
Yeah.
that are running around behind the scenes, it's so important because to me, when I felt that shift, it actually made me a better talent. It made me a better actor because I
Yeah.
knew my place in the ecosystem and I could step in and go, oh, this is a good time to ask the DP that question, or
Yeah.
you're paying attention to what's happening.
Yeah.
It makes you a better collaborator. And I think our industry has been so binary in that sense, where it's like, well, you're talent, you're over there,
Yeah.
look pretty, and we'll be over here doing all the other executive stuff. And then I think it's a twofold problem because then we get upset when talent doesn't necessarily understand
Yeah.
whatever delays
Process, yeah.
the process and the domino effect that some things can have on the other
Yeah.
the process.
Well, when I just did Land of Women when I was shooting in Spain, Tierra de las Mujeres, and they asked, "Do you want to direct? Could you direct?" And I said, "No, it's the first time I'm going to act in Spanish. I just want to sit back and stand on my mark and drink a latte
focus.
while I'm waiting, right? Because I was like, I don't want to know the location fell out for tomorrow. I don't want to know that, the schedule changed next week. Like, I don't want to think about all the things you have to think about. I want to be here and I want to be present while I was acting. But normally I like to do both. I like to direct and produce and act, all of them at the same time because I'm very efficient.
Yeah.
I have a very efficient mind. So if I'm just acting, I can see all the inefficiencies on set. I'm like, but why aren't we shooting that way? So we're gonna do 3 turnarounds. Great. That's great. Okay. Is there a reason to, and then I'm like, just shut up and.
Like the power, knowledge is power, and the more you know, the more again.
But I've had many actors go, I want to be a director too. Can I shadow you? And I will tell you, 50% of them decided not to because I told them, shadow me in prep. You already know what happens on set. Come to prep. All the prep meetings, all the prop meet. I told every time I do a project, I tell props, I hate you. And I hate these meetings of like, do you want a small coffee cup? Do you want a blue coffee cup? Do you want like a to-go mug? Or do you want and I'm like, somebody make this decision because I'm gonna kill this guy. So, and then I'm on set, I'm like, who the fuck put the blue coffee mug? And they were like, we asked you. And I'm like, oh, they did. So you have to make all the decisions. But I've had many actors go, never mind, because oh my God, I didn't know how much was decided before I even set foot on this on this stage, on this set.
Yeah.
And then they do end up having a great appreciation of like, okay, no problem. Like, yeah, we have to do 3 turnarounds because Bob has to leave and you're going to do with a stand-in because, and then you go, got it. If you just
Yeah.
know. I also feel like asking the right questions,
Yes.
right? Like, and especially as an actor or producer, I always say, if you get a no when you're asking something and you really want a yes, you're asking the wrong question or the wrong person.
Mm.
And so this happened when we were promoting Flaming Hot. I think it was Flaming Hot, and it was something about the premiere or the screening or the press junket. I don't know what it was, and they were saying no about something, and I go, I'm so sorry. You're not the person to ask. And then I was like, went over here and I was like, this is what we need to do and why we need to do it. And they were like, oh my God, yes. I was like, yes. Because sometimes you need a visionary that's not at this level, that's at this level that gets like, oh, got it. And I was like, no, we need more money because it will do this, this, and this, and this. And they go, oh, got it. Or one time I was an actor and I told the DP, I was like, hey, what's the next shot? And he goes, oh, we got a crane, and then after that, we're gonna do thing, and then I go, I am so sorry. When is my next shot? Like, and he goes, oh, not for an hour. I was like, great.
Yeah.
I go, no, I didn't want the shot list.
Right. Gotta be real.
I needed to know if I could go eat something. I was like, I am so sorry. I asked the wrong question.
I think
But yeah,
it's important because being a disruptor to me means being someone who can roll up your sleeves and step in and
Yeah.
do whatever it takes. And you can
whatever
only
it takes.
do that if you take interest and you're curious about the process and deconstructing the process and not the end product, which we all see the end product at the fancy festivals like this and the behind the scenes of what it takes to get there.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that like jazzes me up. It's
Yeah.
part of why I should do it.
But I love problem solving. And so as a producer, you have to put out, your job is to put out every fire. Every problem is your problem. It's not my problem. If I'm a director, it's not my problem. It's your problem. You got to fix this. As an actor, whatever they're going through, that's your problem. As a producer, you've got to fix it.
Yeah.
As crazy as the problem is. And I find some people go, my mom came on set. I was producing and directing something, and she goes, "But what are you doing?" I was like, "Everything, Mom, everything. All of this is my brain. Like, I just don't see you doing anything."
It's a lot of talking. Like my dad is always like, "So you just spend all day talking," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's just a lot of talking, conversations
Yeah.
on the phone."
But you
or
have to
email,
be
texting.
solution oriented.
Yes.
As crazy as the solution is, I mean, as crazy it is, and you just go, great. So how can I help you in this moment? And somebody's like, blah, 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 blah. Got it. So you want me to move the trucks on the other street? Would that make you happy? And they're just yelling or whatever or emotional, and then they go, well, no, you can leave them here. It's just it's blocking. Great. So do you want me to unblock the driveway? Like, what specifically would fix this, sir?
How do I fix
How
this?
can I fix this? I remember when I was ADing and I had a horrible DP, a yeller, a screamer, and he would just scream, and I go, great. Should we move the car? And he's like, I was like, awesome. So should we move the car? Like, I don't care. You have to be unemotional. You have to have no ego, and you got to fix the fucking problem. Like, that's your job. And be happy doing it. Got it. No problem.
I remember I became a mom recently, and I could never have predicted how much production was going to prepare me for motherhood, which
Yeah.
is a lot of like
Planning
eating
ahead.
eating and talking to people at odd hours and dealing with a bunch of babies who typically cannot communicate their needs to you, and you have to find a solve. It's like the same thing,
Same
except
thing.
you love them a little more.
Yeah.
They're tiny and cute, but there's so much synergy to that.
Yeah.
And I want to shift gears a little bit just to talk about ownership, which is so important.
Yeah.
As a creator, as an entrepreneur, talk a little bit about why us owning our projects, our companies in the marketplace, why that's so important to our growth and our evolution.
I think obviously because you want to have more control. I mean, you want to control what you're going to put out there in the world, and it's still hard to do that. By the way, it's still hard for Hyphenate Media to get a studio position or to get more control because of the business model that our business is in. But more and more, like you look at, I love her so much, Lena, and what she became on YouTube. Like now, there's so many other outlets to take a different type of business model and ownership model. And so there's other options. So the legacy studios are bobbing and weaving and bending a bit to maybe this new idea that, you know, we're going to co-own this idea, or we're going to, because it's amazing how many times you develop with these partners and then it dies because it didn't never got made, or and then it goes to the cemetery, the TV or film cemetery, and you can never revive it. And you're like, but that was my baby.
Well, and the years that it took for you to get it.
Yeah,
just
to a
up
certain
until
point.
Death, yes.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And so I think, you know, the industry is more open now because of the amount of outlets that we can sell to. And that's really the ultimate disruptor is the audience. The audience will
Yeah.
go where they want to go. They're going to watch what they're going to watch, when they want to watch it, how they're going to watch it, on what device they want to watch it on. And so, luckily, uh, you know, we are the audience. If you look, you know, women are half the population of this world. We're not a special interest group. We're not a demographic. We are half the population of this
Getting
world.
caught for that.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't we have more female storytellers, female stories, or stories in a female gaze or female lens? Like it shouldn't be treated less than or niche or, you know, and stories of color, people of color. Like that's not a niche story. That's people's stories.
But what drives me crazy, Eva, is yet we still hear time and time again that, oh, international stories don't travel. We don't know how to
See,
market
it's
this."
opposite. Like if you ask me what advice would I give you guys today, I would say think globally, because what works in the US does not work globally. I remember I was chasing this like NFL story and everybody was like, that's never going to work outside of the US, right? I mean, if you look at like Blindside, that like it's, you know, an
Right.
exceptional anomaly and it did travel. But for the most part, you know, those ideas that we think of like, you know, oh, this is going to be huge, it might not travel. You have to think of universal themes
Yeah.
and stories that you know would resonate with anybody. And I think that's why Housewives did so great, was because it was about women, marriage, divorce, friendship, you know, murder. It's universal, universal stuff. You know,
Yeah.
everyday stuff.
It's your everyday stuff. But since you recently moved to Spain, right, and producing TV and
Well, I live between Spain, Mexico City, and LA.
Okay.
And I've done that for like the last 6 years.
but
Didn't
producing
do that because
in
of
in
the
this market,
political
yeah,
sphere.
that's what they're
Thing.
out there. But the difference. Talk a little bit about the difference of working as a producer and finding the stories.
Let me tell you something. Sorry, because I got so excited. Working in France and Spain have been my favorite because there's a limit on hours you can work a day. Where in the United States, you know, we work 16 hours a day.
Yeah.
And when they told me like, well, it's an 8-hour day in Spain, and I was like, what? And I came kicking and screaming because I was like, it's going to take twice as long to shoot these episodes. And I got to the set and I got to wake up with my son. I dropped my son off at school. I, you know, had dinner every night at home. Like it was a livable life. And I think I was like, I came here going, you guys have it backwards. And I'm like, no, we have it backwards. Like,
we did.
I'm never going back to a 16-hour day. Or like
Yeah.
8-hour days and wine at lunch. I love it.
But aside from production, is there anything in
Yeah.
house shows or pitching shows and putting projects together in these markets? versus
Yeah, it's so
traditional
different.
Hollywood. What are
It
some
just
of the
depends on the market, but you know,
Yeah.
we have a show we're pitching in the UK right now, and they go bring in a log line. You don't have to do a huge pitch. You don't have to really package yet. You just want to know like if they even like the idea, and then you know there's a rule of like if it's in the UK, it can't be like the American and the UK, they want authentic UK stories, and we're like, got it. So then we have our mandate. In France, same thing. Like what's an authentic French perspective, not the American perspective in France. It's like what is this French story, right? That is native to the culture and society of France, and we're like, okay, got it. And I, you know, but each market's different. You know, when I worked in Spain, I was, you know, I played the American coming to Spain, and it was very much under the Tuscan sun of like fish out of water. And there's fun stuff to do like
With
that
that,
as
yeah.
well, as long as you're honoring the region. So what I find is regional projects are doing so well and travel, right? And if you look in the TV side, you know, 10%, which is one of my favorite shows. I think it's called Call My Agent in English, but like it's just so fucking funny. And it was like the #1 show in the US. You know, Squid Games, it's Korean. I don't speak Korean, but I like, wow, that's a really good show. You know, Casa de Papel, and from Spain. So if you, the more specific you get with the storytelling, the broader the audience you will find. So that's what I
Yeah.
feel is happening globally. That's why I think these stories are That's what Flaming Hot worked so well in Germany and Australia, and even though it was a very rags to riches American story, and that Flaming Hot product isn't everywhere in the world. People identified with Richard's journey, and it did amazing.
Yeah. So then what inspired, because searching for Spain and then searching for France, is that going to
Yeah,
be,
we
are
did Searching for Mexico. So you guys know Searching for Italy
Yes.
was Stanley's series on CNN, and they asked for a spinoff. So I pitched Mexico, and then we did Mexico, which was beautiful. And the reason I wanted to do Mexico was because I want, there's this broken relationship between the U.S. and Mexico that I really wanted to remind people how beautiful the people of Mexico are, how beautiful the food is, and so you can't go, Taco Tuesday, and at the same time,
Yeah.
not appreciate and respect the culture where margaritas come from,
That's right.
And so we did Mexico, and then I was living most of my time in Spain, and so we ended up doing Spain, and then I begged CNN to let me do France because everybody knows I have a very special connection with France. I speak French. I was married to a Frenchman, and so I feel like I am French. Uh, and CNN was like, great. So now we're shooting that, and we're doing Searching for France. But I love, because when you talk about the food of a country, you're talking about its people. And when you
Yeah.
talk about its people, you're talking about the history.
Mhm.
And so that is also this easy way into cultures that I think everybody can connect to. And Spain is airing now on CNN, and it's the number one show outside of whatever that news slot is, but it's the number one show on
Nice.
CNN because people are loving learning about
What's
other
the not to
cultures.
love?
I know.
Culture, food, Eva, like what? It's
Yeah.
amazing.
So fun to do.
Great. How has your approach to producing shifted in these last 20 years? And has sort of what has been happening in these last 5 years within our industry and the global markets? And we've seen a lot of these mergers, there's just a contraction, there's so much happening right now in this period that we're in. So I'm curious how your perspective as a producer and how you approach the work has shifted or have had to shift in light of all of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's changing. One thing I don't do, which a lot of, especially we do a lot of TV. We do, Hyphenate Media. We really do a lot of TV, and it's about not following mandates. So when Netflix is like, we're looking for a medical drama, that means they've told 90 other companies they're looking for a medical drama. And then all of a sudden, somebody comes in with like aliens landed, and they're like, ooh, that's interesting. You're like, yeah, because you just read 90 other medical dramas. So I would say don't follow mandates. Don't, find stories you're passionate about, package things package talent, invest in talent, right? Whether it's the writer, the director, the star. That has changed my approach because I used to chase ideas like, oh, I want to do an idea about, Texas and blah, 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 and then try to go find the talent. So I've shifted to just being talent driven. I really want to work with Gloria Calderon. I really want to work with this person, this director, Alfonso Gomez Rejon. Like I love what he does. And I go meet with these people, and they all have dream projects, and they'll tell you their dream project, and they'll be invested in that dream project if you invest in them. And so usually that's a win-win.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's the legacy that you hope that Hyphenate Media Group leaves behind to these next?
Oh,
Five
I
years? Do you
don't,
even
I
believe
hate,
in that?
no, I hate that word. Because I think when you keep your head down and your feet moving, you just look up one day and then there's a body of work that is worth applauding or celebrating. But if you think of like the big picture, what will I be celebrated for? You cannot get there. You have to touch every rung of the ladder. And that's, I feel like that's what happened in my directing career was like I just looked up one day and it was 12 years of directing. And I was like, oh, that's amazing, but never thinking one day I want to win this or one day I want
Yeah.
my legacy to be this. I feel like you have to do it one day at a time, one project at a time, with facing every day with like this desire to do it and wake up and be happy. And also, the one thing that's changed for me with producing as well is like life's too short for assholes. Life's too short for projects to be that hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by looking for people I want to work with. I work with the same people over and over because I know it's going to be a good time. And I did start this one project in a certain country, and I just had like a come to Jesus because I was like, you guys, it feels like nobody's enjoying this. And if we're not going to enjoy this, we don't have to do it. I'm not relocating my family, and we're not going to do this. If you have that tone and she's not happy to be here and you don't really want to do that, let's just not do it. We just don't do it. And
Yeah.
everybody didn't realize, like, wow, we are lucky to be doing this. And then it was a great project. But everybody needed like a shaking of like, are you having fun? You should be having fun.
Yeah.
Like you dreamed of this moment. You dreamed to have this job. So don't ever show up going, "Ugh, why am I here? Like you dreamed this. And so why not live that moment? And
Yeah.
so as a producer, it's about like we have to have joy in our work.
Yeah, I think finding that joy is very similar to what we were talking about with Ro and Sam. Just finding that why that motivates you because the work is so hard and there's so many challenges along the way. But you have to ground in and move back into that, and that's usually the people.
Yeah.
That's why we got into this. You know,
Mhm.
everyone had a dream at some point to do a certain version of what they now get to do, and I think we get
Yeah.
caught in like the rat race of all the things and just caught in the narrative
Yeah.
of what we're supposed to be and what we're supposed to be doing. That it can be easy to fall prey to that.
Yeah. But I think
Guilty, you know?
that's a good point of like we should invest in people, and that means relationships, and that means being kind, and that means being collaborative and respecting people's point of views and opinions and creativity, and so it is a bit of that. I remember I invested in the first John Wick, and people were like, how did you do that? How did that come about? And I was like, it was these two directors um, that I met, and I go, they will for sure not fail. And I invested in them, not in this film that became this crazy franchise. They were so passionate about John Wick and how they were going to do it, and I was like, wow, I'm I'm gonna invest in you. Like that's you. There's no way he was gonna allow himself. They were gonna allow themselves to fail, and then it worked. And
Yeah.
usually, anytime I invest in something, entrepreneurial wise, or that's always my rule of thumb of like investing in people, not the idea, but like, is this person really, really going to see it through no matter what? And you felt that with Chad and David Leach with John Wick.
And I also find that quality in people to be very it's like a magnet. You're just attracted to that. And it's inspiring again throughout the heart to have people that are so passionate and ambitious about the things that they want to do, with what they want to put out into the world in whatever format that looks, that they're just gonna keep going no matter what. Because it requires that resilience, that tenacity. And so it's really important. And I want to end us on that note.